Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shiur.
Shalom, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, Shabbos Daf Tzadik Zayin. We are 2 lines from the top. It says the Gemara, Kayotze b'davar ta'omer. The Gemara told us that according to Rabbi Kiva, the Mekoshesh Eitzim b'Yom HaShabbos was Slavchat, so he revealed the identity of this individual, and he was challenged for doing so by Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseira. Says the Gemara, a similar exchange we will find Kayotze b'davar ta'omer pertaining to the following pasuk. Vayichar af Hashem bam vayelach. Hashem expressed anger in them, in Miriam and Aaron, when they discussed Moshe Rabbeinu's private affairs. So the Torah uses a lashon rabim. Vayichar af Hashem bam vayelach. It's a plural term, indicating that not only was Miriam affected by this incident, Melamed, this teaches us that af Aaron nitztarei, also Aaron HaKohen, experienced saras as a result of this incident. It became Matzorah. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. Homily Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseira, Akiva. Benkach or benkach. Either way, whether what you're saying is true or untrue. Benkach or benkach ata osid, litin esadin. You're going to be held accountable. You're going to be punished for revealing this information. Why? Im kidvarecha. If it turns out that what you said is correct, is factually true, HaTorah kisasai. The Torah concealed this. Didn't want to reveal the fact that Aaron HaKohen experienced this unfortunate consequence. Va'ata megala oisai, and you are revealing it, you may not do so. V'imlav, and if it turns out that you're incorrect, ata moitzi las, or you say tzaddik, you're merely maligning this righteous man, Aaron HaKohen. Says the Gemara, ve'ela haksiv bam. But how is Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseira going to explain the fact that the Torah uses the word bam, which is a lashon ram, a plural term indicating that all were affected? It's referring to merely censure, that Hashem expressed his disapproval, his criticism towards both of them, towards Miriam and Aaron HaKohen, but it doesn't mean that he experienced saras. Says the Gemara Tanya, however, we have a brisa, Commander Omar, which supports the opinion, the one that holds that Commander Omar af Aaron Itztaraya, that even Aaron experienced saras as a result. T'chsiv, Vayishvan Aaron al Miriam. Aaron turned to Miriam, V'hine mitzoras. He knows that she's a mitzora. Tana, we went to the brisa. From the word Vayishvan Aaron, we learn shepana mitzorate, that he was relieved from his saras experience, his saras condition. So his saras left him quickly, but indeed he did experience saras as well. Amar Shlakish, if one unjustifiably suspects an innocent person of wrongdoing, he will endure bodily suffering as a result. So Moshe Rabbeinu told Hashem, well, Klal Yisrael won't believe, won't trust me. They won't believe that indeed Hashem was revealed to you and you're sent by Hashem. They won't believe it. Says the Gemara, it was revealed to Hashem. Hashem knew the Mehemni Yisrael, that Yisrael will indeed fully trust and believe in Moshe Rabbeinu's words. Amar Lois, Hashem responded to Moshe, you are presenting Klal Yisrael as though they will not believe. They don't have the highest level of emunah. They are believers, the children of believers. However, you will be deficient and lacking somewhat in emunah yourself. Explains the Gemara. They are believers, the chsiv, as it says. Eventually, when he went and he spoke to Klal Yisrael, vayaminam. Yes, they did. They fully believed. They believed that Hashem revealed himself to Moshe and sent him to them. So they are indeed believers. B'nei ma'aminim, children of believers, of Avraham Avinu, v'hemen b'Hashem. Avraham believed in Hashem. So they are ma'aminim, b'nei ma'aminim. It's in their genes. Ata in schayf alamin. However, you yourself are going to be deficient somewhat in this concept of Amunah, Shenemar, as it says, Yan lo yimantabi. So Hashem punished Moshe and Aaron, Yan, due to the fact lo yimantabi, they were deficient in this in the Amunah. So Moshe Rabbeinu he suspected ksherim. They were innocent. It wasn't justified, the fact that he presented them in this light that they're not going to believe. Says the Gemara, as a result, he was like a begufa. He suffered. What do we find that he was like a begufa? Hashem additionally told him, bring your hand into your bosom, and the pasuk concludes that as a result he took out his hand and he found it to be full of tzaras, mitzaras kasholik. So you experience bodily pain and suffering as a result of being choshed b'ksherim. Continues the Gemara, Amar Rava v'itema Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina, mida toiva, a good measure, memaheres lava, it comes quicker, it hastens quicker than midas puranis. There's something bad. Why? Di'ilu b'midas puranis, when it comes to something negative, it says. So this was following the previous incident where Hashem told him, put your hand inside, and he suffered tzaras as a result. It says vayotzia, that he took it out. V'hinei yodai mitzaras kasholik. So he took out his hand, and it was mitzaras kasholik, meaning when he took it out, he found it to be full of tzaras. So it only happened after he took it out of his bosom. However, when it comes to a good measure, so Hashem wanted to remove the tzaras from his hand. What does it say? Hashem told him, you know what? Put your hand back in your bosom. And it says that indeed he followed. He put it back in. When he removed his hand, it says, look, it had returned to its normal color, to its natural color. And the Gemara says, we learn from this the pasuk that when was it repaired? When did it go back to its natural state? When it was still inside his bosom, even before he took it out. So we find that midah tova, good measure, undoing this tzaras happened quicker than the actual arrival of tzaras, because the arrival of the tzaras only took place after he took it out of his micheikoi, if he took it out of his bosom. So it took a while for it to arrive. But when it came to removing the tzaras, it happened much quicker. It happened while it was still inside. Continues the Gemara. Vayivla mata arnas matoisam. So this was a nace that when Aaron HaKohen was presenting the signs of Hashem, so his staff, his stick, his mata turned into a tanin, form of a snake, and it says that the magicians there by Pari tried to do the same thing, duplicated it. So theirs also turned into snakes. But Aaron HaKohen's swallowed them all up. Now the pasuk says, "Vayivla mata Aaron es matoisam." What swallowed? When it was already back in the form of a stick. Amar was a nace v'zich nace. This was a nace within a nace, a double nace. Not only did his swallow theirs, but it was already back in the form of a stick. So his stick had the ability to swallow up their sticks. Continues the Gemara. Let's go back to our Mishnah where we have a machlekes between Rabbi Akiva and the Chacham in a case where one tosses an item from Rishus HaYachid, a private domain, over to another Rishus HaYachid through the airspace of Rishus HaRabim. It hadn't landed in Rishus HaRabim, it merely passed through the airspace. According to Rabbi Akiva, he is chayiv, he is liable. According to the Chachamim, he is pater. The Gemara will have two approaches. How to explain, in what context, in what circumstance are you speaking about? Says the Gemara, Rabbi asked the following question. What is the context of their disagreement? At what level did the object pass over Rishus HaRabim? We know that Rishus HaRabim only extends up until 10 tfachim. So the domain only goes up until Asor tfachim. Above that is considered to be Makam P'tur, an exempt area. So at what height did the object fly through? Fly through the Rishus HaRabim. Boy Rabba. The question is as follows. Lamata Masor Pligi. Did the object fly within 10 tfachim of the floor, the bottom of the earth of Rishus HaRabim? Ubaha Pligi. And this is the basis, the svara, in which they are disagreeing. The Ma'ar Savar, Rabbi Akiva holds, Kluta, when something is contained within the airspace, it is kluta, it is grabbed within the airspace, kamash uncha. It's as though it landed. So since it's within the airspace of Rishus Harabim, it's within 10 tefachim to the ground, we regard the chayfetz as though it had landed, rested, come to rest in Rishus Harabim, and by doing so, there's a full ma'isa of eitzah, because it left the Rishus Hayachid where the akira took place, and the hanacha, the resting, took place in Rishus Harabim, which are the two components necessary for a malach of eitzah. So this is a Rekiva's sheet. Umar Sava, the Chacham maintain no. We don't apply this formula, kluta k'mashoncha, something which is contained in the airspace. It's as though it came to rest. No, therefore it's still flying through the air. It's in transit. It never landed. It never came to rest. There was no hanacha in Rishus Harabim, therefore he's pat. So this is because it was within 10 tefachim to the ground. But if the object is flying through the Rishus Harabim above 10 tefachim of the ground, the called pater all agree that he's pater, because there's no concept of kluta k'mashoncha. It's not within the airspace of Rishus Harabim. All agree that he's pater. We don't derive, we don't learn, we don't equate. Zurek and Moshe, we don't learn that just as when one passes, Moshe means he passes an object from one Rishus Hayachid to the other Rishus Hayachid over Rishus Harabim, even at a high altitude. We learned in the Mishnah that he is chayv. We learn it from what the Leviim used to do in the Mishkan, in the Midbar. There's a special halacha. We don't derive throwing from passing. We don't say, well, just as passing involves a liability, even though it's very high up over Rishus Harabim, likewise, zrika, zorik, will have the same liability. We don't say that. So according to all shittas, if he throws something above the 10 tefachim altitude, he is pat. Oy dilma. So this is one approach. That the machlekes is within 10 tefachim. The question is, do we say kluta k'mashoncha, and it is as though it came to rest in Rishus Harabim? Oy dilma, perhaps. Alternatively, we have another approach to the machlekes. Perhaps lamala masar pligi. They're discussing a case where the object flew above 10 tefachim through the Rishus Harabim, ubaha, and this is the point of the machlekes. Mar savar yalfinu zerek l'moishit. Rekiva maintains, yes, we derive throwing from passing, just as passing is chayiv, so too throwing at this altitude involves chayiv. Umar savar lo yalfinu zerek l'moishit. According to the Chacham, we don't derive one from the other, although moishit in this type of situation would be chayiv, but zerek is different. It's an entirely different act. We don't equate the two. So this is the other approach, that the machlekes involves throwing an object above the 10 tefachim of the earth of Rishus Harabim, and the question is whether we equate throwing to passing. But according to this approach, if the item would pass within 10 tefachim of the ground, the Bakal Chayv all agree, he would be Chayv my time and why kluta. All will agree that being intercepted within the airspace of Rishus Harabim is as though it came to rest in Rishus Harabim. There was a hanacha, and therefore he's chayv. So we have two approaches. Is the machlekes involving an object passing within 10 tefachim of Rishus Harabim, within 10 tefachim of the ground? The question is, do we consider it to have come to rest? According to Rekiva, according to Chacham, no. Or is the machlekes pertaining to a case where the object was above 10 tefachim? The question is, do we learn zrika from Moshit to be mechayvim in this case? However, if it would pass within 10 tefachim to Rishus Harabim, all will agree that we say kluta k'mashoncha, and he would be chayv. Two approaches. Rabbi Yosef, ha milsa. So this question, he had the same question. Rav Chizda had the same uncertainty. Upashta ni'alei Rav Nuna miha. Rav Nuna clarified it to him from the following brisa. The brisa says, if one transfers something from Rishus Hayachid to the other Rishus Hayachid, the Va'oyer Rishus Harabim Atzma, and it transits, it passes through the actual Rishus Harabim, Rabbi Kiva Machayev, V'chachamim Poitrim. Let's analyze the wording of the brisa. Midika'ama Rishus Harabim Atzma, the fact that the brisa chooses to use this description, Rishus Harabim Atzma, the actual Rishus Harabim, Pshita, it's very clear that Lamata Masar Pligi, the brisa is presenting their dispute in a scenario where the item passes within 10 tefachim of Rishus Harabim, that is Rishus Harabim Atzma. Ubemai. Now let's analyze what exactly happened here. Are we speaking about that if somebody's actually manually carrying a object from a Rishus Yachid to the other Rishus Yachid, passing through the Rishus Rabbim. Says the Gemara, Lamata Ma'asora de Machayev. Are you going to say that this is limited to the object within 10 tefachim of the ground? Only then is he chayiv. L'mala miyud l'mechayiv. If it would be above 10, he wouldn't be chayiv. But that's not the case. V'amar Belezer. Didn't Belezer tell us hamoitzi masoi l'mala masor chayiv? If one should carry an object, even if it's above 10 tefachim, if it's higher than 10 tefachim from the ground, he's chayiv. Shekein masa b'nei kahas, because this was the manner in which the b'nei kahas would carry. The Gemara said the aron, for instance. So, as Taisus explains, even though it's higher than 10 tefachim, since it's being carried by a person who is standing on the floor, on the ground, we regard this object as though it's on the ground. So there's no issue here. There's no machlekes. So why does the Gemara tell us, why does the Brisa seem to imply that if one carries something through the Rishus Rabbim, the only way he could be chayiv, and the Brisa tells us actually a machlekes, if it's Rishus Rabbim Atzma, which implies that it's within 10 tefachim Rishus Rabbim, apparently if it would be higher than that, he would be pater. That's not the case. Even higher than that, he would be chayiv. Elav bezoyrik. Apparently we're not speaking about actually carrying something, rather we're speaking about throwing something. So the object is mid-air, it's transiting Rishus Rabbim mid-air. And the fact that the Brisa says that it was Rishus Rabbim Atzma, the Brisa is indicating Ulamata Ma'asora de Mechayev, that this discussion, where Rebbe Kiva maintains that there's a liability, in this case, is apparently only strictly limited to Lamata Masora, because the object passed within 10 tefachim to the ground. Lamala Masora L'Mechayev, but above 10 tefachim there's no chiyuv. According to Rebbe Kiva, Shema Mino. Apparently, we see from here, Be'kluto K'mashoncha Pligi Shema Mino. So it's obvious that indeed there's a machlekes. B'idun Chacham that say Pater, Rebbe Kiva says Chayev is strictly in a case where the object passed through within 10 tefachim to the ground. And what is this svara of the machlekes? What is it based on? This question, whether we regard something in this altitude as though it landed, it came to rest. Kuluta, being caught within the airspace, is it as though it landed or not? According to Rebbe Kiva, yes. According to Chacham, no. So this was the brisa that Rav Nuna used to clarify the question of Rav Chizda, who wanted to know what was the circumstance of the machlekes in which Rebbe Kiva says chayiv and Racham say pater. He says we have a brisa which tells us that the machlekes is speaking about a case where it passed within 10 tefachim to the ground, and the machlekes is whether we apply the concept of kluta k'masha honcha. But apparently, if it's higher than 10 tefachim, all agree that it's pater because it's too high. And we don't learn Zorik from Moishit. All agree that if he throws something above 10 tefachim, he would be pater. Says the Gemara Upliga, the Rebbe Lezer, that this interpretation is in disagreement of Rebbe Lezer's interpretation. Dam Rebbe Lezer, Mechayev Rebbe Kiva afilu lemala miyud. Rebbe Kiva holds a person liable even upon throwing an object over 10 tefachim, beyond the reach of Rishus Rabbim. V'haidik tani Rishus Rabbim atzma. Why then does a brisa use this choice of words, Rishus Rabbim atzma? That's nothing to do with Rebbe Kiva. Rebbe Kiva would be mechayiv even above 10 tefachim. The brisa is coming to teach you the extent of the Chachamim's opinion, that even when it's so low, it's Rishus Rabbim atzma. Nevertheless, they exempt. They hold that it is not as though the item has come to rest and he's pater. So according to Rebbe Lezer, the machlekes pertains at any height, whether within 10 tefachim, and the machlekes would be based on kulta k'mishahuncha, or even if it's above 10 tefachim, where according to Rebbe Kiva would be chayv as well, based on the derivation from Moishit. We learn Zerek from Moishit. So you have two approaches. We have the first approach that the machlekes is limited to within 10 tefachim, based on klutik mashoncha. Rebbe Lezer, who maintains that the machlekes actually applies in both cases, below 10 and above 10 as well. Says the Gemara, Upliga to Rav Chilki bar Tuvia. Now this interpretation of Rabbi Eliezer is in disagreement with Rav Chilki bar Tuvi, who says, the Amar Rav Chilki bar Tuvi, Toich Shleisha Tivya Kol Chayiv. So Rav Chilki bar Tuvi will actually adopt the earlier approach to the Machlokes, that the Machlokes only pertains to within 10 Tfachim. He said as follows, Toich Shleisha, if the object passes within 3 Tfachim of the ground, it's considered as though it landed on the ground itself. Tivya Kol Chayiv. All agree that he's liable because we consider it to be Munach. L'mala Masara, if it's above 10, Tivya Kol Pater, it's too far up. Megimel v'ad Yud, within this window of 3 to 10, Banu l'Machlokes, Rekiva Rabbanan, that is where the Machlokes applies, where according to Rekiva is Chayiv, because Kluta, K'mashoncha, and the Rabbanan disagree with that. Tani Nami Hachi, we have a Brisa, which says the same, B'Sech Gimel, if it passes within 3 Tfachim on the ground, Tivya Kol Chayiv, all agree that it's Chayiv. L'mal miyud, if it's above 10, Einoi Ela Mishum Shvus. It is merely an Issa D'Rabbanan. Shvus means you're meant to rest. It's an Issa D'Rabbanan. Why? Explains Rashi, because although there's no liability of Haitzam and HaTorah, but when he throws from, for instance, his home to his friend's home across the street, without having done the Erev Chatzeros, it's impossible to do Erev Chatzeros across the Yisrael. So, in this case, he transferred an item from Rosh Hashanah to the other without an Erev, and that's Asam D'Rabbanan. So it's merely an Issa D'Rabbanan. And the Brisa continues, but if both domains will actually belong to him, there's no issue of Erev Chatzeros. He doesn't need to combine those properties, they're both his. Mutter, in this case, he can transfer an item from one of his homes to the other. So even if it's across the street, he can do so. Megillah v'adasar, and this is what pertains to us, that if he threw something through the Rosh Hashanah at a height of from 3 Tfachim from the ground up until 10 Tfachim, and this again is based on the question whether we say something is caught within the airspace of Rosh Hashanah, is it reckoned as though it landed or not? So this indeed supports this approach to the Machlokes, that is within 3 to 10, and the question is whether we consider to have landed. So up at this point in the Gemara we have 2 approaches. In the Machlokes between Rekiva and the Chacham, in a case where one throws through Rosh Hashanah, according to Rekiva is Chayiv, according to Chacham is Pater. One approach is that we're speaking about within 10 Tfachim to the ground, between 3 and 10. The question is whether we regard the object as though it landed, according to Rekiva yes, according to Chacham no. The other approach is that the Machlokes applies even above 10. The question is, do we say just as one passes an item that manner is Chayiv, so too throwing is learned from there and is Chayiv as well, according to Rekiva, according to Chacham no. Continues the Gemara. Amar, we just said, if one he has 2 properties, 2 homes on both sides of Rosh Hashanah, he may throw an item from one to the other. Says the Gemara, Lema, perhaps, Yufta the Rav. This will be a refutation of Rav, the Itmar, because we learned Shnei Batim, B'Shnei Tzidei Rosh Hashanah. If there are 2 homes situated across the street on both sides of Rosh Hashanah, Rabba Baravuna Amarav. So you said the name of Rab, also Lizrak Mizem Mizeh. One may not throw an item from one home across the Rosh Hashanah to the other. Also Lizrak Mizeh Lezeh, Shmuel Amamota Lizrak Mizeh Lezeh. One may do so. So the Brisa tells us that he can do it. It seems to be a kasha on Rab, who prohibits. Says the Gemara, ordinarily speaking, Rab would allow. We're speaking about a specific scenario, Valav, Miyokimna Lahi. Haven't we established and interpreted Rav's prohibition to be speaking about a specific case? Could go, for instance, the midlichad. One home is higher, or mitzichad, and the other one is lower. So we're speaking about throwing from different levels. He needs to aim properly. There's a concern that he might misfire, and the object might end up falling into Shesarabim. The zimne nafal, perhaps on occasion it might fall into Shesarabim, and he may be tempted to go pick it off of Shesarabim and bring it in. So that's the situation where Rab is speaking about, and he doesn't allow one to throw an object from one to the other since it's an uneven throw. But if he's throwing to on the same level, certainly that's mutter without any concerns. Continues the Gemara. Amalei Rav Chizda Rav Hamnuna. Va'amarla, some say Rav Hamnuna Rav Chizda. We learned earlier that one throws an object within 3 tefachim to the ground, it's as though it landed, all agree to that. So you see that within 3 tefachim is considered to have landed. We don't reckon with this small measure of 3 tefachim. The Gemara will expound on this topic. Menah Milsa, the Amar Rabbanan. What is the source of this teaching by the Chachamim called Pachos Megimel? For instance, if we have a hump, a bump, in Rosh Hashanah, which is less than 3 tefachim high, could love a dummy. It's disregarded. It's as though it's bottle, it's non-existent. We disregard it. It's as though it's flattened out. And therefore, if it's within 3 tefachim, we consider it to be part of Rosh Hashanah. So this bump, which is up until 3 tefachim, is not considered to be a separate domain. It's regarded as a full-fledged Rosh Hashanah. It's bottle, nullified Rosh Hashanah. How do we know this concept? What is the source of this concept? Aham Reis, he responded, very simple. It's a svara. It's impossible to go pick the Rosh Hashanah. These types of tools, the types of planes, of tools. So one cannot go ahead and smooth out the Rosh Hashanah to be exactly even, free of these blemishes. So certainly a bump, a hump, is considered to be part and parcel of Rosh Hashanah and is not reckoned with. Says the Gemara, so what about 3 tefachim? If it's merely this logic that one can't flatten out the Rosh Hashanah properly, so why do you differentiate between less than 3 tefachim and 3 tefachim? Even 3 tefachim, we can apply this concept to. Visu, another kasha. We find this concept applied elsewhere, where we can't seem to apply this svara to explain the halacha there. This is what we find in a Mishnah. So one is building a sukkah, and he goes out and he builds his walls. So he starts lamala up on top, and he proceeds downward milamala lamata, and he doesn't reach the floor all the way. He leaves a gap. So halacha is if there's a gap of 3 tefachim, then it's not regarded as a proper partition. And the sukkah is possible. Apparently, if it's less than 3 tefachim, there's a small gap there, the sukkah is kosher. Now, why is it kosher? Apparently, we view the walls as though they extend completely to the floor. We stretch those walls, since it's less than 3 tefachim. Now, in that case, we can't apply this concept of this concept of an uneven Rosh Hashanah is unrealistic. This concept has no bearing on this halacha. So apparently this concept that less than 3 is regarded as closed off is based on something else. Says the Gemara, Hasam over there, it's based on a different reason. Hasam hainu taima mishum dahavil mechitza shagdoyim shagdim boikim ba. What is the point and purpose of a mechitza partition? To protect, to prevent people from coming in, to prevent the animals from breaking through. So, if this mechitza is within 3 tefachim to the ground, it is a mechitza that the gdiyim cannot be boikea. They can't force their way through. Therefore, it's functioning properly. It's regarded as a properly functioning mechitza. That only pertains to up to 3 tefachim. But if the gap is 3 tefachim or higher or larger, that is not a proper partition. It's not performing properly. It's not functioning properly. It is a mechitza shagdim boikimba, that the goats can get through, can break through. So therefore, it's not regarded as a mechitza. So that is the distinction between 3 and less than 3. That's a svara. Why in that Mishnah, if the mechitza reaches within 3 tefachim on the ground, it's performing properly, it's keeping the goats out, and therefore it is viewed as a full-fledged mechitza. So the Gemara continued, well, teinach lamata, that's a good svara when the gap is down on bottom. Lamala meikil meima, what if the gap is up on top? For instance, Rashi says, the Mishnah tells us that if the schach is removed 3 tefachim from the walls of the sukkah, it's considered to be disqualified, puzzle. But less than 3 tefachim, it's considered to be okay. Now, up on top, there's no concept of gdim baikim, of goats working their way in there. The closure on top has nothing to do with keeping the goats out. So why there do we find this distinction between 3 tefachim and less than 3 tefachim, so less than 3 tefachim is regarded as connected, it's closed off. What is the svara there? You can't apply this reasoning there. So lamala ma'ikil meimer. Says Mar'ella, rather, we have one answer for all the kashas. Kol pachas mishloisha kalav. Any gap which is less than 3 tefachim is regarded as kalavad, as though it's closed off, as though it's connected. So the mechitza, which has merely a small gap of 3 tefachim, we regard the mechitza as though it's continuing and closing off that gap. Hilchasa gmirla. Where does it come from? It's halacha l'mishmit Sinai. So that's the basis, the source of this concept that a gap of less than 3 tefachim in a mechitza is considered to be negligible, non-existent. We view as though the mechitza is continuing over the gap, it's closing it off, and we don't reckon with it. Now, based on this svara, we will apply it to the Rishus Rabbim as well. If we find that an area less than 3 tefachim is not held to be significant, it's not reckoned with when it comes to closing off the mechitza on this small size gap. So likewise, in this Rishus Rabbim that contains a small hump, which is less than 3 tefachim, something which is less than 3 tefachim is not reckoned with, it's not regarded with, and it's not significant. Therefore, it's considered to be batal to Rishus Rabbim, and part and parcel of the same Rishus. It's not considered to be a separate domain. Okay, so in summation, we learned if one is zoyrik from Rishus HaYachid to another Rishus HaYachid through the airspace of Rishus Rabbim, Rabbi Kiva says chayev hachamsei pater. Rav Nuna and Rav Chilke were to be explained that the object passed within 10 tefachim to Rishus Rabbim. So it was from 3 till 10 tefachim of the ground. And the machlokes is whether the object which is contained within the airspace of Rishus Rabbim, kluta, is kamishuncha, is as though it landed, according to Rav Kiva, yes, according to Chum, no. Rav Lezer says, not only does the machlokes apply to this case, from 3 till 10, but even above 10 tefachim, Rabbi Kiva will maintain that he's chayiv because we learn zoyrek from Moshe. Just as passing in this situation would involve chiyav, zrika as well involves chiyav. The Gemara told us that within 3 tefachim to the ground, all agree he would be chayiv because that's the concept of lavud, which is learned from Halacha Mishmit Sinai. We disregard a gap of less than 3 tefachim. It is certainly viewed as though it landed on the ground. The Gemara told us if one should throw an object from one house to the other, situated on both sides of Rishus Rabbim. So he's throwing across Rishus Rabbim, and of course it's above 10 tefachim. So according to the Shittas Chachamim, this certainly would be mutter, provided both of those homes belong to him, and he's not throwing from his house to his friends. In that case, he would need Erev Chatzeres. Now, if the bottom are not aligned with each other, one is higher, one is lower, and there's a concern perhaps he might miss, and it might end up on the Rishus Rabbim. According to Rav, it's Aser. According to Shmuel, even in this case, it would be mutter. Continues the Gemara. Tanu Rabbanan. The Brisa will present for us another version of a concept of kluta, something which is caught within the airspace. It is regarded as though it landed. Kluta kamishoncha. This time, instead of passing through the avir, the airspace of Rishus Rabbim, we're speaking about passing through Rishus HaYachid. Tanu Rabbanan will enter the Brisa. Rishus Rabbim, one throws an object from one Rishus Rabbim over to the other Rishus Rabbim. Rishus HaYachid be'emtza, it passes through a private domain. Rebbe Mechayev. Rebbe says he's liable because Rebbe holds of the concept of kuta kamishoncha. We consider the object as though it rested in Rishus HaYachid, and therefore he did a malacha. He took an object from Rishus Rabbim and had it rest in Rishus HaYachid. The Chacham and Paitrim, they say he's pater. They don't apply the concept of kuta kamishoncha. Explains the Gemara, Rav Shmuel, the Amrit Havayu, they both said, Lo yechiyev Rebbe ella b'Rishus HaYachid nekura. Rebbe will only hold him liable if the object passes through a Rishus HaYachid which is roofed. We regard the home as though it's filled up. Rashi says it's dark, it's moist and humid. Rashi elsewhere says we view it as though it's full of objects. A roofed area is considered to be one entity. We don't differentiate between the floor space and the air space. It's one place of use, one makam shimush. Something which passes through there is considered to have arrived at its destination. Therefore, Rebbe maintains that this object is viewed as though it rested in Rishus HaYachid. But if it passes through a Rishus HaYachid which is unroofed, even Rebbe will agree there's no malacha being committed. Amar Rav Chana, Amar Vida Shmuel. Mechayiv hayu Rebbe shtayim. Rebbe held him accountable, liable for two. Achas mishum hoitzah, achas mishum hachnasa. He did two malachos here. Because once we consider this object to have landed in Rishus HaYachid, so number one, he took the chayfetz from Rishus HaRabim and brought it into Rishus HaYachid. That's achnasa. And then when it continued its flight on to Rishus HaRabim, he did another malacha, hoitzah. He took the item from Rishus HaYachid and had it travel into Rishus HaRabim. So he did two things. Now the Yitzah is an Av, and the Achnos is a Toda, as we learned in Daf Tzadik Vav. So there are two liabilities here. Says the Gemara, Yosef Rav Chana, Rav Chana was sitting and he had it difficult. How can you say that there's a double liability here when he did it, an Av and a Toda, in conjunction? L'meimra de Machayev Rebbe Atoda Makom Av? Can you say that Rebbe will hold him liable and accountable? There's a separate chiyuv for the Toda when it's done in conjunction with the Av. Vatanya, haven't we learned that Rebbe himself, Rebbe Omer, Dvarim Hadvarim, the pasuk tells us, Eile Hadvarim, these are the things, Asher Tziva Hashem Lasis Oisam, it's referring to the malachos that we're meant to refrain from on Shabbos. Says Rebbe, we learn from here the number 39. How? Dvarim, if we would only say the word Dvarim, it's plural, it's referring to two. The Torah adds the letter Hey, Hadvarim, to add another one. So we have a total of 3 malachos so far. Eile Hadvarim, what is the numerical value of the word Eile? So Eila is Aleph, 1, Lamed is 30, and Hey is 5, for a total of 36. Add the initial 3. So Eila Hadvarim, Elu Lametes Malachos, it's a total of the 39 Malachos, Shenemer L'Moshe B'Sinai. So the fact that the Torah here gives us the number, apparently the Torah is teaching us something. Because the actual Malachos, for instance, we learn from the Mishkan. Why does the Torah need to give us a number? Let us count on our own. We don't need the Torah to give us a number. Apparently the Torah is teaching us something. And what is that? That if a person should perform all those malachos in one helim, in one lapse of awareness, in one period of forgetfulness, the most chatos, the most karbanis he can be liable for is 39. So even if he does all those malachos and does many derivatives as well, many todas, the most he will have is 39 chiyuvim. Apparently, there's no separate chiyuv, no separate liability for a toda, a derivative, which is done in conjunction with the av. So this seems to be a contradiction to what we just said, the name of Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. In the case where he tosses an object through the Rishus HaYachid, thereby committing both Hoitzah, which is an Av, and Achnasa, which is a Toda, he will be Chayiv too, even though they're both being done in conjunction with each other. So we have a contradiction. Continues the Gemara, Amalei Rav Yosef. So Rav Yosef responded to Rav Chana. He said, Mar, you applied this statement of Shmuel regarding double liability, you applied it to Rebbe. And as a result of that, Bekashle the Rebbe, who came up with a contradiction between one Rebbe and the other. Anan, we applied this statement to Rabbi Yehuda's Shita, therefore we have no difficulty. Which Shita? The Sanias we learned in the Bryce. If one tosses an object from Rishus HaYachid over to Rishus HaRabim, and it continued flying an additional 4 amas in Rishus HaRabim, Rabbi Yehuda says it's chayiv, a chacham poitr. Chacham says potter. Rabbi Yehuda Mashmol. Mechayev haya Rabbi Yehuda shtayim. Rabbi Yehuda held him accountable on 2 liabilities. Achas b'shem ha'yitzah. Number 1, because he carried out an item from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim. An additional chiyuv is because of havara. We learned in Daf Tzadik Vav. If one transfers an object 4 amas within Rishus HaRabim, it's chayiv. It's a teilada of Yitzah. So Ravida maintains that when the object arrives into the airspace of Rishus HaRabim, we apply the concept of kluto kibishun, as though it landed, and it continued onward an additional 4 amas, he has committed another malacha of havara, of maver Rishus HaRabim. So there are 2 chiyuvim. One is a av, Hitzah is an av, and maver is a teilada. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, there are 2 chiyuvim. According to Rabbanan, there's only 1 chiyuv, because they don't apply the concept of kluto kibishuncha. We don't view the object that landed as soon as it reaches Rishus HaRabim. So it's considered to be merely 1 act of Hitzah from the Akira all the way to the Hanacha, and therefore there's only 1 chiyuv here. So Rida maintains there are 2 chiyuvim, according to Rabban there's 1 chiyuv. Because if you're going to suggest that Yehuda only holds him liable for 1, He doesn't say that there are two separate chiyuvim, that there's a separate chiyuv for the tolda when done in conjunction with the av. If you should say so. So then, what's the machlokes here? B'chalal, apparently, the Rabbanan patur ligamri. Rabbanan will exempt him completely. If Rabbi Yehuda holds there's one chiyuv, then what did the Rabbanan hold? The Rabbanan disagree with him. Are they going to say it's patur completely? He took it out for Mishizachah Sharabim. How can they say it's patur? So apparently, Rabbanan holds there's one chiyuv. Rabbi Yehuda holds there are two chiyuvim, because he holds that there's a separate chiyuv for the tolda, even when it's done in conjunction with the av. Says Rabbi Mai, how do you know? Dilma perhaps, perhaps Rabbi Yehuda only maintains his one chiyuv here, because there's no separate chiyuv for a tolda when done together with the av. Rabbanan patur the gamri, indeed the Rabbanan exempt him completely. Why? How do you find such a case? Kigoy, for instance, the Amar, if he says, well, I would like this item to land as soon as it reaches Shisarabim, and it didn't do so, it continued flying. And this is the basis of their disagreement. Rabbi the Savar, we consider the chavis as though it landed as soon as it reached the airspace of Shisarabim. If so, his machshav's plan was realized, it came into fruition. Therefore, according to Rabbi is chayiv one. For Rabbanan Sarvei, they hold lo yamrinan kuluta k'mashoncha. We don't view it as though it landed. And his machshava was not realized. He wanted to land as soon as it gets to Shisarabim at the first point, and it continued flying. Therefore, he's patur. But however, according to this approach, certainly there's no concept of applying a separate liability for a tolda when it's done in conjunction with the av. Merely, Rabbi Yehuda is mechayiv one. Rabbanan says patur completely. Says you can't say that according to Rabbi Yehuda there's no separate liability for a tolda. The Sami, because we learned in the Bryce. Rabbi Yehuda moisif. This is when it comes to the list of the 39 malachas. Rabbi Yehuda adds more to the list. Afa shoyvet, medaktek. So these are part of the weaving procedure. Shoyvet is taking this tool and straightening out the vertical threads. Medaktek is loosening up the horizontal threads. He considers these to be part of the list of malachas. Amar lo, the Chacham responded, they're already included in the other ones. Shoyvet hariu b'chal mesach. So we have mesach, which applies to the vertical threads, and shoyvet is included in that. It's not a separate malacha. Medaktek, what you consider to be a separate malacha is medaktek because he's loosening the horizontals. Hariu b'chal oirg, that's included in the malacha of oirg of weaving. Says Gemara, what does the reader mean when he's moisif? My love, apparently. Speaking about that he did both together. He did the av and the tolda. He did the mesach and the shoyvet. The shma minar, apparently, apparently, Rabbi Yehuda holds there's a separate liability for a tolda, even when done in conjunction with the av. So you see clearly, yes, according to Rabbi Yehuda, there are two liabilities. Says what I mean, how do you know? Dilma la'olam, the avda, lahalachuda. We're speaking about perhaps that he did both separately. He did the av separately, lahalachuda did the other thing separately. Rabbi Yehuda told him makamav loy mechay. Rabbi Yehuda does not hold as a separate liability for a tolda. This is the basis of their disagreement. Rabbi Yehuda savar hani aves ninu. Machlokes is simply whether we are to regard these two activities of shoyvet and medaktek as separate primary malachos, as avos, according to Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbanan savri hani told us ninu. They're regarded merely as derivatives of those other malachos. So we're not speaking about doing an av and a tolda in conjunction, where according to Rabbi Yehuda, there's a separate chiyuv for the tolda, even when done together with the av. Rabbi Yehuda maintains these are considered to be avos as well. Shoyvet and medaktek, they're considered to be avos. Rabbanan say that told us that is their machlokes, unrelated to the question of whether or not there's a separate liability for the tolda when done together with the av. Teda, I'll prove it to you that this indeed is the context of their disagreement. Diktani, Rabbi Yehuda moisif. The Brisa says that Rabbi Yehuda adds. What is he coming to add to? So it's always well if. Rabbi Yehuda is referring to the concept of avos, that he maintains that shoyvet and medaktek are considered to be primary malachos. Now we understand that my moisif avos. What does it mean he adds? He's adding to the list of avos. Don't stop at 39, add another 2. Eli Amos told us. However, if you maintain that shoyvet and medaktek are certainly considered to be toldas, And Rabbi Yehuda never meant them to be more than Toldos? My Moisif. What do you mean he's adding? What is he adding to? We have a list of avos. He comes to say, well, Shevet and Medaktik also considered to be malachas, they're considered to be Toldos. What do you mean he's adding? He's adding to what? Adding to a list of Toldos? We have no list of Toldos, apparently. All he was coming to say is that Shevet and Medaktik are to be considered primary malachas avos, and we have nothing, it is not related to the question of separate liability for Toldos. Rather, he considers them to be avos. So indeed, according to this approach, in the case where a person would throw an object into Rishus Rabbim and it continues onward another 4 amis, according to Rabbi Yehuda, there's only one chiyuv. According to Rabbanan, he's patur completely. As we explained earlier, he wanted it to land at the first point in Rishus Rabbim. According to Rabbi Yehuda, we apply the concept of kluta k'mishoncha. We view it as though it landed, and therefore it's chayiv. According to Rabbanan, we don't view it as though it landed, and therefore it's patur. Continues the Gemara Itmernami. We learned as well, Rav Yosef, Damar Tavai, they both said, Lo Yechiv Rabbi Yehuda ala achas. Rabbi Yehuda only holds him liable on one account, because there's no separate chiyuv for the Tolda, which in this case is Maver, which is Ravim. There's no separate chiyuv for the Tolda when done in conjunction with the Av, which is Eitzah. Amalei Ravina Ravashi. Ulamai Desalka Daitin Mikara. According to our first version, that we had suggested the Machayiv Rabbi Yehuda Shtayim. Rabbi Yehuda holds him accountable on 2 accounts. Number 1, because of Haitzah, because when the item left Rishus Yachid and entered Rishus Rabbim, we viewed as though it landed, there was Haitzah, and then when it continued onward, another 4 amas, there was a malacha of Maver taking place. There were 2 chiyuvim. Says, how could you be mechayiv him 2? Now, where did he want the item to land? If he wants the item to land far into Rishus Rabbim, he doesn't want it to land at the beginning, at the first point of Rishus Rabbim. So how can you hold him liable for that? How could you say, well, it landed at the first point, there's a hanacha there, and therefore the sum total are 2 chiyuvim. He doesn't want it to land there. He wants it to land further in. Alternatively, if he wants it to land at the first point in Shus Rabbim, then he doesn't want it to land further in. So you can't say, well, he has 2 chiyuvim here. 1, due to the fact that it landed right at the beginning, and number 2, because it landed further in. Where did he want this item to land? Armalei. So Ravina responded, I'll tell you how. He says, well, wherever the item wants to land, I'm okay with. So he's easygoing. He doesn't care where it lands. Therefore, according to the way we initially thought, there will be 2 chiyuvim here. Because according to Rav Yehuda, we applied the concept of kluta. It's caught in the airspace, it's k'mishahuncha, so it landed. So number 1, it landed right at the first point of entry in Rishus Rabbim, thereby completing the malacha of Haitzah. Then we continued onward for an additional 4 amas. We consider it to be an additional malacha. It's as though it lifted off the ground and landed 4 amas further in, which is a malacha of maver for a total of 2 chiyuvim. But in conclusion, this proposal wasn't really substantiated, and the Gemara actually concluded that it appears that Rabbi Yehuda really holds there's only 1 chiyuv. There's no separate liability for a tolda for the maver when done in conjunction with the av, which is Eitzah. Merely there's 1 chiyuv. We view the object as though it landed in Rishus Rabbim because he wanted it to land at the first point of entry. We view it as though it landed there, and therefore he's chayiv on Eitzah, which is 1 chiyuv according to the Chachamim. He's patur completely because we don't view it as though it landed at the first point of entry in Rishus Rabbim. We don't apply the concept of kluta k'mishon chadam. Okay, so in summary, we began with a discussion of one who throws through Rishus HaYachid. So he's throwing from Rishus Rabbim through Rishus HaYachid over to the other side, which is Rishus Rabbim. The Gemara says we're speaking about Rishus HaYachid, which is roof, mikura. According to Rabbi, there's a chiv because we consider the item as though it landed. Kluta k'mishoncha in Rishus HaYachid. According to Chamis Pata, we don't say that. Now we had a statement in the name of Shmuel that there are 2 chiyuvim. One on account of Eitzah, one on account of Achnasa, according to Rabbi. And Rabbi Yosef disputed that. He says, well, it's not meant to be applied to the halacha of Rabbi. This double chiyuv is meant to be applied to the halacha of Rabbi Yehuda. So this is the case where we had a person threw from Rishus HaYachid out to Rishus Rabbim and it continued flying an additional 4 amas. The Gemara told us, the Gemara concluded that the correct pshat is actually when he wants it to land miyad. He wanted it to land at the first point of entry into Rishus Rabbim. According to Rabbi Yischai, because kluta k'mishoncha, we view it as though it landed right there. And therefore, Yischai 1, according to Chamis Pata completely, because we don't apply this concept of kluta k'mishoncha. It didn't land where we wanted it to land, and therefore, it's Pata completely. Continues the Gemara, Pshita, the halacha in the following case is clear to us. If one is standing in Shus Rabim and he throws an object, Niskavan Lizruk Shmoina, he intended on throwing it 8 amas away, V'zarak Arba, and it merely flew 4 amas. He's certainly chayav. Why? Hari Kosav Shemi Shimon. This is equated with the halacha mentioned later in the Masechta. If one intends on writing Shimon, a full name Shimon, and he merely writes the first 2 letters, Shin and Mem, he's chayav. Because Shin Mem equals Shem. It's the name of a person, one of Noach's children, Shem Cham and Yefes. So even though he intended on writing Shimon, he's liable merely for the word Shem. In our case as well, even though he intended on throwing it at a much greater distance, he's chayav because at the end of the day he threw it 4 amas. What about in the reverse situation? Niskavel Izurk Arba, he intended on merely throwing it 4 amas away. V'zarak Shmoina, he ended up throwing it further down, 8 amas away. Ma, what is that halacha? Mi Aminim do we say? Ha'apikle, at the end of the day, he threw it 4 amas away. He's chayiv. Aydilma, or do we say, Heiche de boy, haleinach, when he wanted it to land, it didn't land there. He intended on having this object land 4 amas away. It flew 8 amas. So his plan did not come into materialization. It didn't realize. So he shouldn't be chayiv. Says the Gemara, he can't be chayiv. V'lav, hainu da amrle, Ravina Lavashi. Isn't this the conversation, reminiscent of the conversation we had earlier? The amrle Ravina Lavashi, Ravina asked the Kash Ravashi. This was when we contended that if a person throws an item in Shus Rabim and it continues flying, he's chayiv 2. 1, because we view it as though it landed at the initial entry point. And number 2, because it continued flying. The kasha was, Ravina asked Ravashi, how could he be chayiv 2? Where did he want this item to land? He could only be chayiv when his plan comes into fruition. V'amalei, and Ravashi responded, speaking about a case where he doesn't care where it lands. So apparently, we can only hold him accountable if his plan comes into full fruition. And in our cases, in both cases, whether he wanted to throw 4 and ended up flying 8, or in the reverse case, he can't be chayiv because his plan didn't come into realization. Says the Gemara, now, this that you said, Hari Kosav Shemi Shimon, that in the first case where he intended on throwing it 8, he only threw it 4. He's chayiv. We equated it to the case of writing shame out of the word Shimon. Me dummy, how could you compare the 2 things? Hasam, in that case, Kama like Siv Shame. As long as he didn't write the word shame, Shimon. He can't get to Shimon without writing shame. So in his plan to write Shimon was already included the initial stage of writing shame. Therefore, you could hold him accountable for writing merely shame, because that was part of his plan. However, in our case, can you say that 8 cannot happen without 4? As long as he doesn't throw 4, he can't throw 8. There's no collection that you wanted to do. They're 2 separate distances. One can certainly arrive at 8 without first landing at 4. The 2 things are unrelated. So if he had a plan to throw 8, and he ended up only throwing 4, it's a different act, a different maisa. And he's not chayiv. So conclusion, no matter what he had kavana, whether it was to throw 4 and end up throwing 8, or to throw 8 and end up throwing 4, he's pater. However, certainly if he says, well, I don't care where it lands, he's chayiv. The Gemara concluded that if one had the intention of writing the entire name Shimon, and he merely wrote shame, he's chayiv, because the word shame is part and parcel. It's phase 1 of the word Shimon. Okay, time for a brief review of today's daf. We have 3 different versions of the concept of kluto kimishoncha, something caught in the airspace. It is viewed as though it landed in that domain. Rabbi Kiva applies this to an item which is in transit through Shus Rabim. We have Rebbe who applies this to an item which is in transit through Shus Hayachet, a Shus Hayachet Mekura, a roof to Shus Hayachet. Rabbi Yehuda applies this to a case where a person throws a chayfetz into Shus Rabim from Shus Hayachet, and it continues flying further into Shus Rabim, and he wanted to land at the first entry point. Because we view the object as though it landed at that point. The Gemara concluded that a person will only be chayiv if the item landed at the location where he wanted the chayfetz to land.